Alright, what's up everybody? It is Carlos Collects Comics and I'm back for a very special episode of Monday Hauls. This is episode number 30 and just in time for the recording of this episode, I got a massive shipment in from CGC. So I can't wait to share with you the books that came back and how many I got right in terms of what I called them to be and how many I got wrong. So stay tuned. Alright, so here we are. I've got, like I said, this is a special edition of Monday Hauls. It's episode number 30, and we're going to be going through, I think, about 21 different slabs that came back from CGC. At the time of the recording of this video, which is about 2 weeks out from when you're actually going to get to view this, I had already gone through them. I went back and reviewed the original video that I made. I'm going to link that right here and in the description, so you can click on that to watch my the video where I was putting the shipment together to send out. These books were sent to my presser in July of 2021. They were pressed and cleaned, and then no, actually they were sent in spring, I think around May of 2021, and then they were shipped out to CGC in July. They arrived at CGC on August 10th of 2021. The two express tier books that I'm going to do first arrived back here in Houston, or back here in like late August, so it's about 2.5 weeks later. And then the rest of the shipments arrived here in December, mid-December. It's about December the 14th. They arrived back here completed, and these were all the modern books from the submission. So from about August 10th to about December the 14th, so about 4 months was the turnaround time for the regular books. It was about 2.5 weeks for the express tier books. And then for the modern tier books, like I said, it was about 4 months. So that's the timetable for them. I know some of you have asked about that, but I'm just going to go through them real quick. So the two express tier books that I sent in were two books that I felt had a reasonable chance of coming back. Of coming back to put them at a value of over $1,000, and so for bigger books it is well worth it to go and spend $108 to $120 on those books, and then you'll pay the shipping on top of that, but it's minimal when you're dealing with bigger books. So the first of those books, obviously the biggest book, is the Giant Size X-Men #1. In my original video, when I showcased the shipment, I was calling the Giant Size X-Men #1 for a 3.0, and I thought, if I'm lucky, it'll hit 3.5. It actually came back a 4.5, so with off-white to white pages. So obviously very pleased about this. It did come back higher than I expected. This was after a pressing and a cleaning, and so it came back as a 4.5. I bought, the history on this book is that I bought this book in December of 2018 for about $400 plus tax, and it was the biggest single book purchase I'd made at that time. And I know my wife chipped in some of her allowance money for it, and so both of us chipped in together, bought it. It was a combined birthday and Christmas present for me. At the time, I thought I was paying a premium for it, and I probably was at that time, but then the book started to spike in value within that next year, and I think when it hit about $1,000 to $1,200, I talked with my wife and we considered selling it, but I'm so glad that we didn't and that we held on to it, because now I think in this grade the book is going, it's well in excess of $3,000. So for a $400 investment plus, so it was about, say, $425-ish or so with tax. The pressing and cleaning for it was $7.50, and because I bought in bulk, the pressing and cleanings in bulk, and then the slabbing fee was about $108, and say about $25 for shipping and insurance. So, you know, I'm putting total money into the book at about $5.50 or so, give or take, and yeah. So, but for it to retail for, you know, between $32 and $35, I think, at the recording of this video, and then the book's only going to go up. So, so we felt like this was a pretty good, you know, all in all, this one made the whole shipment worth it. But it will stay in the collection for a while. I'm not looking necessarily to sell it unless the values go up considerably. The other bigger book that I did send in, I felt like this book had a reasonable chance of coming back as a 9.8 off the shelf, because I had picked out a really clean copy, but it was Something is Killing the Children, number 1, cover A. I called it for a 9.8, and it did come back a 9.8 with white pages. So this was another one. It was the same cost, $108 to do the express tier. I felt like it was worth it because it expedited the rest of them as well. So it was worth it to just get it back quick and have it ready, just in case I needed to sell it for any reason. These books, I think right now, are going for about $1,000 for a 9.8, and I paid for less than cover price. So I think I paid like $3.50 for the book itself, $7 for, I don't even know that I paid to press it, because my presser will not press a book if he doesn't feel it needs it. And he's just real honest and straight up like that. That's why I like him a lot. But it's $3.50 for the book, and then it was $108 for the slabbing. So I have less than $150 into the book, and it's about $1,000 book easy. So, and it'll just go up as casting announcements and everything is made for the show. So there's that one. Now getting into the modern books, okay, so I did change up the shipment that I was sending in from when I recorded the video. At the last minute, I switched out a couple things, but so some of these I didn't have a call on what I thought it would come back as. This one was one of those. This is Something is Killing the Children, number 3, the cover A. I did not have an estimate on what it would come back, but it did. This one also came back as a 9.8 with white pages. You know, my son is interested in investments and, to a degree, comic books, so, you know, he'd been collecting We Live, so we picked his the cleanest copy he got, and it's We Live number 1. This came back in 9.8 with white pages. And again, this one and the Something is Killing the Children number 3 were both, I paid less than cover price for them. And then the price of grading was $22, and then if it needed it, the pressing was $7. So I don't have more than $30, or more than I don't have more than $35, and that includes shipping into any of the modern books. Let's see. I'll save these for later. These fun ones here. Okay, so I'll do the Something is Killing the Children. All those. Okay. So, yeah, this one was a big surprise. Something is Killing the Children, number 2. So I sent this in, I won't reveal it yet. I sent it in, and it had a notch on the back of the book, which you can barely see it right. I don't know if you can even see it. Yeah, it's a little white notch. I wasn't sure what it was going to come back as. I ballparked that the number 2A would come back no higher than a 9.6, but I didn't think it would. I was calling it for about a 9.2-ish, maybe a 9.4 if I was really, really fortunate, but it did come back as a 9.6. So this was a surprise to me that they didn't take off as much. But I mean, other than that one small color breaking notch on the back, it was a pristine book. And so it was, you know, I'm fortunate that it came back as a 9.6 because it really was in great shape. But me and my presser both thought that it would get hit harder for that ding on the back. So that was the only Something is Killing the Children book that did not come back a 9.8. Something is Killing the Children number 3. The variant cover, this is the unlocked retailer edition. This came back as a 9.8 with white pages. And I'd called these as 9.8s. Something is Killing the Children number 2. The unlocked retailer edition. This came back at 9.8 with white pages. And then we'll get into the Department of Truth books. So, yeah, okay, so Department of Truth number 1, the 1 in 50, no, this was 1B, no, variant cover D, I guess. This one came back in 9.8, white pages. Really should have organized these before before starting the video. Okay, so yeah, these were kind of a bummer. These three. So I had a Department of Truth number 1A. This one I think had, yeah, this one had a notch on the spine. So I was actually, this was not in the original video, but I ended up deciding to send it anyway. It came back a 9.6. Again, it just had a small notch on it. I decided to go ahead and get it graded anyway, just, you know, because I figured there's always going to be people that are looking for a 9.6 of a hot, you know, of a spec book. And the Department of Truths have cooled down, and that's the thing, is that when you're submitting, at the time when we were submitting to CGC, I mean, we had no idea when these books were going to come back. I was estimating about 4 months turnaround time, and it did end up hitting right at about 4 months. So I was on there, but I didn't think Department of Truth was going to cool down as much as it did in the meantime. It's cooled down a lot. So I might not, you know, now if I had it, like if I was making the decision now, I don't know that I would send in the same books that I did. I went heavy on Department of Truth, but I might not have necessarily done that, you know, if I had to go to do back again. But, you know, they're all books that, you know, at some point will probably, you know, will get sold. And so I'm okay with it because, you know, somebody will be interested in it. So I did send in both copies of the variant cover B for Department of Truth, and you know, it's unexplainable to me how, but this one, the first one came back in 9.6. I had eyeballed it as a 9.8, and then the other one also came back in 9.6, and I thought both of these were going to be 9.8s. So, you know, it is what it is. You can't win all of them, and there's definitely going to be situations where I don't agree with what you know, with CGC's grading. Most of the time I've been very fortunate, like you saw with the Giant Size X-Men and some of the other books. But, you know, sometimes you don't get all 9.8s. So these are the last two Department of Truth books. Department of Truth number 1A. This is another 1A. I did go ahead and I called this for a 9.8. Came back a 9.8. And then the Department of Truth number 1 secret variant cover. I called that for a 9.8, and that also came back at 9.8. So yeah, so I mean, there was a couple that, like the two biggest disruptors there was the number one uh, D or B covers that came back as 9.6s, and I felt like they should have been 9.8s. That kind of sucked, but you know, what are you gonna do? Okay, so other random books that I sent in. I sent in Star Wars Thrawn #1, the action figure variant cover by John Tyler Christopher. This book, I had called it for a 9.8 when in my original video because it was in very, very good condition. I don't know why or how, but it only came back as a 9.6. And again, you know, sometimes it is what it is. But I'm still, you know, I got it back. It was a 9.6 at least. And you know, I'll have to make a decision about what I do with that. So I'll do that one last. There were 3 Masters of the Universe books that I sent in. These are the DC Comics. These are the DC Comics miniseries books. The #1s. I picked up 3 copies of #1, and I was pegging them at one of them as a 9.8, and 2 of them as 9.4 to 9.6. Or no, I think. Let's see, what did I say? Yeah, one of them. Yeah, I was thinking that I'd get a 9.8, a 9.6, and maybe a 9.4. It came back as a 9.4. All of them are white pages, but a 9.4, another 9.4, and then the highest graded one only came back as a 9.6. So that yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer because I was hoping to have it, but I have actually picked up quite a few 9.6 personal collection books, and the highest graded was going to be a personal collection book, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, I wish, you know, I mean, like anybody, I wish it would have come back a 9.8. Let's see, the last 4 books to show. Let's see. Okay, so this was probably the biggest surprise of them all. I don't know why in the world it came back what it did, because I need to look at the grader's notes and figure out why, because it looks pristine to me. But Further Adventures of Indiana Jones #1, I sent it in. I called it for a 9.8. And it came back as a 9.0, which is completely baffling to me because it looks perfect. So I need to find out what the deal was with it. And it's not missing any pages or anything, but it came back as a 9.0, and like even just looking at it right now, I can't see any defects to it. But, you know, again, that's just kind of the gamble you take sometimes. I think CGC's grading has not been as strong since they brought on all the new staff people. So, and this shipment hit right in that time period. So, yeah, there was a couple disappointments in this one. So the next one, Silverhawks #1. I called it for a 9.8 candidate, saying it could go as low as a 9.6, and it did come back as a 9.6 with white pages. So I'm happy about this one. This is a personal collection keeper, along with the Indiana Jones and a couple of these other ones. But yeah, you know, I mean, obviously it would have been, it's always cooler to have 9.8s, but a 9.6, I seem to have this thing going right now with just having a bunch of 9.6s, and I'm not as big a 9.8 person for older books as I used to be. Obviously moderns, yeah, I try to get 9.8s where I can, but some of the older books, you know, you're not always going to get them in the best shape. So these last two, so this one that I'm about to show, it's Thundercats #1. The first printing, and I I'd called this for a 9.2, possibly a 9.2 or 9.4 after press, because it did have some color breaking spine ticks, but it did come back as a 9.0 with white pages. And this one, so I'm not real disappointed with this one. I think I paid $100 for it raw, and then the $22 for the grading, and $7 for the pressing. So yeah, so I mean, but this is a nice personal collection keeper. I might or might not upgrade. I mean, I wasn't like a huge Thundercats fan growing up, but I mean, you know, it's part of that whole nostalgia bubble of properties that I've been collecting. So, you know, so this one's a nice one to add and have there on display. Last book, this was the biggest disappointment of them all. It's frustrating because it is what, you know, but it is what it is, again, because this is what happens. And I've been very fortunate with the grades that I've received on almost all my books. So this is Star Wars #1 from the original series. I had it slabbed already, and it was a CGC 7.0. I had sent it in for pressing and cleaning, and then to be regrading, and we were hoping for a grade bump. Eric was not as optimistic as I was. He thought he didn't think it could go past a 7.5. I was actually hoping for an 8.0. Sadly, it did not get a grade bump. It actually came back as only a 6.0 with off-white to white pages. And it did have grader's notes that were notating the foxing and the, you know, some of the other condition issues that we weren't able to resolve. So, you know, it's one of those things. It just, you know, it happens. Nonetheless, I'm glad to have it back here in the collection with me. It is a personal collection book. And so those are, that's this week's Monday haul. Like I said, a very special edition where I went through the CGC shipment that came in. I have one last book that is due in from CGC, and that is a Tomb of Dracula #1. It was raw. It did get a press and clean. I was calling it for a 5.0 to a 6.0. We'll see in a future episode of Monday Hauls what it actually comes back as, but it'll probably still be a little bit before it gets here. But hey, thank you so much for sticking with me. For those who have been watching since the very beginning, thank you for sticking with me. It's been 30 episodes of this web series that showcases the last week to week and a half in pickups, and I love when I can show some of these books and give a little bit of insight into the decision-making process that I make as a fellow collector, and also sometimes doing some speculation and investing in comic books. Thanks for watching and for tuning in. I know this is a longer episode, but I really appreciate you being here. If you could, please like this video, comment below. Let me know what you thought of this video, of what you thought of the books, of what you thought of the process. If you have questions, I'm probably going to be doing some videos later about my preferred process for submitting to CGC and to CBCS. Also, you know, as always, if you take the time to leave a comment, I will take the time to respond to each and every single comment. Additionally, if you could hit that notification bell for me so that you'll know when the books are going live. And last but not least, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It is a huge help when you do that, and what it does is continues to help the channel grow and continues to unlock additional giveaways as the channel grows and as our little part of the community grows here. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great night and keep on with collecting those comic books. I'll see you soon.